Hi, I'm Alicia with Modern Knit Co. Today I'm going to teach you how to create your own chunky hand knit blanket using only your hands. You're not going to use any needles, only your two hands are needed. I'm going to show you in my video how to create a medium-sized chunky knit blanket, but you might have a kit for a mini, a medium, or a mega. If you have a chunky knit mini-sized blanket kit, you are going to do 12 stitches across. If you have a mega blanket, you're going to do 20 stitches across. My video is going to show you how to make a medium size, which is 16 stitches across. Again, a mini you're going to do 12, a medium you're going to do 16, and a mega you're going to do 20. All right, let's get started.
You're going to leave yourself a 4 to 6 inch tail. You're going to simply take the right side and flap it over to the left. You should see now you have what looks like a cursive L. You're going to put your fingers in here, push your working yarn through, and pull it out. At the same time, you're going to be grabbing with your right hand the tail and the working yarn, and you're going to pull it tight. Now you can see that we have a stitch, and on the working yarn side, you can see that it is a slip knot. I'm going to make my stitches about 4 fingers in width with just a little bit of extra space, just so our first row is not too tight. So you can really see right now it's about 5 fingers. We are going to build a chain of 16 stitches with a medium chunkiness in the blanket. That will get you approximately a 50 by 30 blanket. So this is stitch number 1. We're going to always come underneath our yarn from here until the end of our blanket. So you can see I'm taking the working yarn and I'm pushing it underneath. This is going to become stitch number 2. And again, you're going to keep about that same stitch width in your fingers all the way to the end of the chain. I also want to see you keeping it flat on your surface, just so you have this nice stitch and it's nice and flat. It should be facing upwards. So this is stitch number 2. This is stitch number 3. If you lose track of count as you're pulling your stitches, at the top of your blanket you should see these humps. You can count those to count what number of stitches you're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are on stitch number 8. And you can see now I have built a chain of 16 stitches. You can see in the holes, so this provides that chunkiness that everybody really likes in these blankets and that I'll talk about as we go along. This is our last stitch, stitch number 16. We are now going to build a row of hanging loops. So if you look at the bottom of your chain, you are going to see all of these bottom bumps, and all of those bottom bumps have a hole. We are now going to build a chain of hanging loops in all of those bottom bumps. So you have your last stitch here. You are now going to pull some some loops from that bottom chain. So I'm going to come right here. This stitch is already occupied, so we're going to come to this next one. You're going to always come underneath, so you're going to come in and pull your second one. You're going to come to this one, and you're going to pull a hanging loop here. And as you can see on my chain, all of the bottom loops should start to line up on the bottom because they're all about that 4 finger width. And that's going to give us that medium chunky look to our blanket that we all like. If you would like your blanket tighter, you can pull that to maybe 3 fingers. 2 fingers does become a little bit more difficult because you are going to have to watch your stitches more carefully. You could also do it more chunky, so if you like a lot more space or air in your blanket, you can do maybe 5 fingers or 6. I wouldn't go any further than 6, or you're going to have a blanket that looks more like a net. but I like right down the middle. So for mine, it is the 4 fingers in width. Again, if you lose track of where you're at, you can always go back and count the hanging loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now you can see on my chain, I have 16 hanging loops, and we are going to now start going back through those loops, and that is all you're going to do. You're going to loop through the loops from here until the end of your blanket. As you're going through, this last one that hangs off just a little bit different right now is going to be picked up in row 2. So just make sure that you don't forget this one right here. And now that you can see my blanket, it is beginning to take shape. So you can see I have all of these hanging loops, and you're just going to continue to loop through the loops. So whatever one you've ended on, you're going to go right back through and continue again, all the way until the end of the blanket. For the end, you're going to remember 1, 2, and through. You're going to take 2 stitches at one time, and you're going to push your working yarn through. Let me show you. This will be your last one, your 1. Your 2 is next to it. Your working yarn is going to come through to make another loop. You're going to end your blanket when you have about 2 to 3 rows of your width of blanket left. And this is when you're going to start that binding off row. Again, 1, 2, and through. This becomes your 1, 2, working yarn, comes right through. Every couple, just pull it back to keep it shape. 1, 2, working yarn through. 1, 2, working yarn through. And for your very last one, when you go through those 2 stitches, you're going to pull the remainder all the way out. So now you should see that it just looks like this. You have your 2 stitches and your working yarn. You're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut yourself about a 4 to 6 inch tail. You can just discard your scraps. When you have your last one, you're going to do a shoelace knot right on top of here. So you can see this is my working yarn that went through. Here's my stitch. You're going to double knot that. So there's 1, 2. You're going to tighten that knot, and you're just going to weave that working yarn through. And the tail that you started with right here at the end, you're also just going to weave into your blanket. Your blanket is done.